All right, game changers, we're back. And we are heading for home right now. I can't thank you all enough for taking the time to come out to today's event and learn from some amazing game changers in our industry. For everybody out there watching live, we appreciate you. Thank you again for joining us. I have Erminio with me from Meriplex. These guys truly are a game changer when it comes to just kind of cybersecurity and compliances. So Meriplex helps automotive dealers by delivering managed IT, cybersecurity, and telecom solutions, purpose-built to keep operations running. Now, keyword there is purpose-built. I've dealt with a lot of companies in my past that really didn't know the automotive industry, and I will tell you, these guys do. Their dealership-specific support scales across rooftops, cuts tech costs, and protects against data breaches and downtime. You know, it's funny, as an industry, I don't think we knew a whole lot of this until just recently, and I won't say those words because I know an algorithm will pick it up and I'll probably get banned. But the three-letter word. No, anyways, guys, can you give a big round of applause for Erminio?
Thanks, everybody. This is actually our first Game Changer event, so I'm excited to be here. Meriplex has been around for quite a while. We have a large auto presence on the West Coast, but we are pushing it across the country. I'm vice president of our auto vertical as well as sales. No, that's just the connection.
It's okay, it's always the IT guy.
Yeah, no kidding. I am the IT guy. What happened? I probably got hacked. That's funny. That is, of course, as soon as I started, that happened, right? I will get this fixed in 2 seconds. Here we go. Okay. So again, my name is Erminio, vice president of our auto division, as well as sales and hire. You need me to speak up? And so today's discussion is the hidden threat to your dealership's reputation. I know there's reputation management companies out there. That's really not what we're talking about specifically today. As we think about what you guys do in dealerships and your standings in the community, how many of you all sponsor a softball team, a baseball team, high school sports team? A lot of you? If we asked your owners, would you guys be considered, let's say, at the best, a pillar of your community, or at least an active member, a long-term standing member that's part of the, you know, the Chamber of Commerce and your local communities and things like that? Why? Why do you do that?
Being a member of the community has proven to have long-term lasting effects within your community, showing that you're willing to give back rather than just take.
Right.
It ends up being an earning potential, because then, you know, you're talking one-on-one with other people inside the community, other businesses, and it creates partnerships. Right.
So we could talk a lot about altruistic reasons why a dealership would be part of the community, and there might be some that people actually believe, but in reality, the real reasons why: exposure, right? You want repeat customers. You want people to buy from you, and then you want them to come in and service their vehicles, and then you want them to sell their car and buy another vehicle, and you want that to happen until they are old enough to have kids, and then they buy their kids' vehicles, and so on and so forth, right? That's why we do it. That's why you all do it. And so what percentage of your car deals, I know what the answer is just from kind of the industry perspective, but what percentage of your car deals are from repeat customers? Would you say as high as 30%? Yeah? Higher? Okay. 30% is the number I found online. And I found it as low as 15% too, by the way, right? But that's still a significant number for a large dealership or any dealership. And so what we are talking about is how significant is that reputation if it was harmed, right? If you no longer had that repeat business. So I'm going to put forward just a scenario for you, right? Last Friday and Saturday of the month, this is your opportunity to close out the month strong. Friday night rolls around, you know, your guys and girls are setting up their appointments for the next day, confirming whatever the case may be. By the way, I sold cars a long time ago at Bob Rohrman in Honda dealership in Chicago, outside of Chicago. That was we barely had cell phones back there. We did, but we were sitting behind a desk making phone calls. But here's a scenario. Chris Thompson, who's back there, gets an email, and does that look like a normal email? Yeah? Okay. Chris Thompson gets this email 7:30. He opens up the attachment, says, okay, I'll call this guy tomorrow. Doesn't get an answer that day. And thinks nothing of it. Nobody thinks anything of it. Next day, it's Saturday morning. When I worked at dealership, the biggest responsibilities the sales guys had pre-opening was getting the popcorn ready and making filling up balloons. I'm not sure how it is today, but dealership employees begin to filter in. The showroom porters and attendants start cleaning vehicles. Coffee gets made. There's probably a lot of different things. I put the balloons in there just for fun. I don't know if you guys still do that. And eventually the managers sit down and they want to see how many appointments they have. Do you guys still have big sales meetings on Saturdays when the GMs bring like cash? Do they do that anymore with cash? Yeah. Yeah. Back when I worked in dealerships, it was all cash. It was awesome. Okay, so everybody's getting ready for the big morning meeting too. So the managers go to check the appointments and scheduling, and this is what they see, right? A ransomware has been put on the computer. It came from the attachment on that email. That attachment looked legit. That email looked legit. And if you haven't done any security awareness training, you wouldn't have bothered to see that the email address the person put at the bottom of that email was different than the from email address. And that is a big sign that you should not open that attachment. Now, somebody with a robust cybersecurity tool set would have email filtering, which would have caught that, and you never would have seen it. So now what? Suddenly the phone's cut out, the CRM fails, the DMS is inaccessible, the screen flashes red, you already saw it, got to pay $1 million in Bitcoin. Panic spreads, the staff scrambles, customers leave, you can't even print a repair order. You're dead in the water. There's nothing you can do, right? Anybody, does this sound familiar to anybody from last year? So what really happens? Technicians wait, sales freeze, nothing is going wrong. Let me ask you guys, who here has received an email from a vendor, like not specific, just personal life, that says your data was compromised and or your identity may have been stolen and they offer you free identity theft protection? A lot of people. Did that make you want to do business with that company again? Yes or no? No. Okay. So that's a problem, right? How do you stop this bleeding? How do you stop your dealership from being on the 6 o'clock news? Realistically, maybe not the 6 o'clock news, but being on, a Facebook community group, right? Because that's exactly what happens. So the good thing about Miraplex and what we do is that we don't just do auto, right? We are a full-service cybersecurity company and managed services company. The other two big verticals we focus on is government contractors and healthcare. They are way ahead of where auto is right now, way ahead. We talk about NIST standards, CMMC, HIPAA. Those are way more. They are way harder than FTC compliance. There are competitors in the space that you guys probably know about, one of which got bought by a DMS, who have only done auto. We are light years ahead of that when it comes to compliance because we understand what the compliance looks like from government contractor space and from healthcare. And so we know what's coming. You guys might not know what's coming, but there's some pretty serious consequences. So you can see here it takes an average of 17 days to recover from ransomware. You guys remember waiting 2 weeks, twice, right? Because that could have been longer than that. And the fact of the matter is, if your IT department or your outsourced IT department is different than your security company, it takes even longer, because the cybersecurity companies don't necessarily know how to get your data back. They have to work with your IT department or your outsourced IT company, and it becomes problematic. Finger pointing, right? That's not my fault. That's their job, etc. In our experience, when we are the MSP and the MSSP, so MSP stands for Managed Services Provider, MSSP stands for Managed Security Services Provider, we can get a customer up a lot faster. So let's talk about the 3-letter word, right? Hopefully they might be on the live stream, but 15,000 dealerships offline across North America. Estimated losses were over $600 million. Customers were furious. Operations froze. Trust was fractured. Why does this matter to you guys? It wasn't your fault. Nobody here did anything wrong. This was not your fault. It impacted your income. Of course it did. But it's more than that, and I'll show you. Dealerships are soft targets. You guys really are soft targets. You have a lot of data. Think about the data you get from your customers: social security numbers, addresses, paychecks, employment. That's everything you need to steal someone's identity. Literally, a hacker could steal your customer's information and go buy a house under that person's name, right? It's a big deal. It's very useful information to steal someone's identity. We're not talking about just a password that you might steal from Discover, your credit card company. Somebody might steal your credit card and put $5,000 worth of charges on it, but who cares? I mean, yeah, it's bad, but Discover is going to credit back the money, right? You change your password, you get a new credit card, you're good to go for the most part. But if somebody opens up a credit card in your name, that's a whole different scenario, right? And that's kind of what we're talking about. They have the hackers will have enough information from the data that you guys keep in order to do all those things. And it's a big deal. And the problem is, to be fully protected, to hire a CISO, a Chief Information Security Officer, is just a hit to your budget. The going rate for a CISO today is over $250,000 a year. And that's on the low end, right? So let's talk about in the months after the CDK breach. This is what I'm talking about. This is why it is your problem. The months after the breaches on individual dealerships went up 232%. So not CDK, not Techion, not any of the DMSs on your individual dealerships. The attacks happened at such a rate by the end of 2024, the number of dealerships that had been breached went from 17% to 35%. And that's still going on today. I don't know what the number is 4 or 5 months into 2025. This isn't a question of if it will happen, it's a question of when, right? There's some other data in here which is interesting. We'll go over it pretty fast. There was a Toyota Lexus dealer breach that was 3.1 million records. Those records were individual pieces of records, right? So the FTC has the ability to fine you for that, but there is a maximum amount at the moment. And then there was another breach of a UK dealer where it was 10,000 customers. So it was all of their information, right? The hacker could literally almost, create fake profiles, fake identities for 10,000 people. It's bad. Cybersecurity spending is expected to reach $373 billion by 2030. I know that's a huge macro number. So what does that mean for you guys? You start looking at profits that some of these dealerships are showing recently, some of the big guys, and their profit margins are shrinking, in part because of tariffs and other things like that. It's going to shrink even more if they start getting hit, and they are going to get hit, right? 22.5 billion in lost revenue and recovery costs in 2024 because of those breaches. Remember, I talked about them going from 17% to 35%. The problem is the talent shortages. It doesn't just cost a lot of money. 70% of dealerships lack in-house cybersecurity expertise. It's expensive. And not only that, you're competing with AT&T, IBM, Microsoft, and companies like us for cybersecurity experts. So how are you going to hire them, right? They're expensive. And 71% of dealers cite that IT staffing shortages are a major obstacle to growth. Great. Let's go sell more cars. Let's open it up. Let's do all these different things. But if you don't have the IT support to handle more staff, how are you going to do that? You just become more vulnerable. It's a big deal. 30% of dealership groups were, the data exfiltration was caused by carelessness of an employee, just like that email. You opened up a link or an attachment that was really a ransomware, a Trojan, a lot of different ways to put it. And unless you're doing some cyber awareness training, you won't know. Here's the worst part. So remember we talked about what the percentage of your car sales are that come from repeat customers? 84% of customers won't buy from you again if they know that you've been breached. 84%. They're not just not going to buy cars from you. They're not going to come to you and do their repairs, right? You experience a breach, you could potentially lose the entire dealership. What was the DNA company? Just the one, 23andMe, just declared bankruptcy. Why? Cybersecurity breach. That was a big company. It's a big deal. Again, you guys rely in part for your sales based on your reputation. And if you're lax about cybersecurity, it could cost you a lot. So this really isn't an IT problem. That's why I'm not sitting here talking to you about products. I'm not throwing out crazy acronyms. This is a business risk, and it's leadership's responsibility to take care of it. We want to come alongside you as a partner to take a look at this and help you remediate, help you get in a better posture, and help you be in a better place so that you never get hacked, right? It's like the guy who steals cars. If you leave your car door open, you're higher likelihood of getting your car stolen than if you lock it, right? Like there's all these steps. Do you lock your cars? Do you have a car alarm? Does anybody use LoJack anymore? But you know what I'm saying, like things like that. So a lot of them still, right? This is your brand and your legacy, and so protecting it should be really important. So compliance, right? The FTC safeguard rules came out. Let's talk about that for a second. So they're really the floor. The FTC requires you to do certain things because let's face it, dealerships weren't doing them. But I want to compare what the FTC is asking you to do to what our other verticals. Forget government contractors, right? They're under ridiculous, but look at healthcare. Healthcare is the other vertical where they get all that kind of information. And actually, in a lot of ways, they don't get the same information that you guys do. Healthcare type regulations are coming to the auto industry. And if you don't self-manage them, if you don't do better than FTC safeguards, if this goes from the FTC to a different government body, which it very well could, you're in for a big world of hurt. You're going to end up spending the money anyway, right? So I know I'm scaring you guys, but the reality of the situation is that you should be scared. If you weren't scared, if you were sitting here not scared, either one of two things. A, you know you're completely covered because you have great IT, or B, you don't care, right? Or you don't know. So when you have real protection, 24/7 monitoring from a security operations center, it doesn't matter what tools you have. Security is not about tools. It is to a certain extent, but in reality, it's about labor. And if you don't have a real SOC looking at your logs and seeing what's going on at all times, you're in big trouble. Talking about our other verticals, anybody want to guess when customers get breached? Throw out some dates. Anybody want to guess? Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, right? And so Thanksgiving, I mean, that Friday and Saturday have to be two of the biggest Fridays and Saturdays of the year for you guys. That's a perfect day, right? But in reality, I can't tell you how many times, and Kevin is my counterpart, sitting in the back, I can't tell you how many times we've been called because a customer didn't have our security services. Maybe we were just taking care of IT to a certain extent, like their servers or whatever, and they were breached over a Christmas holiday. All of a sudden they have to pay holiday, remediation. It's not cheap. We're so sure about what we do on the security side, we will give you a warranty between $100,000 and $1 million for any breach. Exactly. Oh, let's see. So encrypted backups, right? It wasn't that long ago, I was working with a company that they were a Christian-led company, and they were making these videos, and they were giving them, I can't get into a lot of details, but they were giving these Christian videos to people that were working in some Middle Eastern countries, and these videos were to convert people to Christianity. And they said, well, you got to protect us from Iran, right? And I'm like, I can't. If Iran wants to get to you, they're going to get to you. The question is, how quickly can we get you back up? So part of cybersecurity is backups. How fast can we get all your data back in? How often is it duplicated? Where is it duplicated? And how quickly can we get you back up? Which is part of the cyber response plan. So no scrabbling, no silence. There was a slide earlier where the only IT guy was a guy named Alex. Hopefully nobody in here is named Alex. Alex might be the greatest IT guy in the world, but during a cyber attack, he's just Alex. It's really hard for Alex, right? It's 17 days. Is anybody named Alex? No? Your brand stays off the 6 o'clock news or Facebook. That's a good thing. Right now, the FTC does not, if you're breached, you are required by law to disclose that information to the FTC. The FTC does not publish that information yet. Healthcare, you can go to Health and Human Services, you can look your doctor up and see if they've been breached. It is public knowledge. That is where we're headed to in the auto space, right? Your breaches will be public. Now, if the FTC finds you, that is public. So, who would lead your response right now? I know you guys in this room may not know, but if something happens, who are you going to go to, right? Can you detect and isolate ransomware in minutes? And do you train your team? And do you test your recovery? Training your team, fake emails. We do that all the time for our customers, right? So final thoughts. You insure a lot. You back up your inventory. You guys have cyber insurance, probably, most of you. I would assume you do. It's gone up a lot. By the way, if you get our warranty, you can get your cyber insurance through our company at a discounted rate, right? It can help pay you for some of the services that we might provide. Do you back up your inventory? If your data operations and customer trust go down, what happens? What happens to your dealership? Remember, 84% of customers in that poll said they would not buy from you again, which is a crazy statistic to think about. So it's time to take cybersecurity as seriously as you take your profit and loss. But we're ready to talk to you guys whenever you are, right? I don't know how many of you are involved with any of this. It may be none of you, but you can help us talk to the right people at your dealerships. We're based here in Dallas. We have offices in Houston, Sacramento, San Diego, Los Angeles, 2 in Los Angeles, Denver, Philadelphia. We're all over the country. I'm missing one, Baton Rouge. Huntsville, thank you. Baton Rouge, Huntsville. Huntsville is our government enclave. We're 700 people, right? We're a big managed services and managed security services company. We have a couple hundred rooftops, some of the biggest names on the West Coast that you may or may not have heard of, that we already take care of. We know this industry. We have a specific pod that takes care of dealerships. So if you call in They understand CDK, they understand Techion, they understand Comply Auto, which, by the way, we can even manage for you, right? And so we're happy to help. We just want to come and talk to you guys. We'll offer you free assessments, depending on what that looks like for your dealership, and we can tell you how to get better, right? You may be fine, but there is no real like green light in cybersecurity. There's only like, this is where you are and this is what your risks look like. If you want to get better than that, this is what you need to spend, and then you might mitigate a lot more risks. But we're ready, willing, and able. Joe is out of Austin back there. Joe is my 20-year auto veteran in this business. So he is my local salesperson who can help you out. But we would love to come in and do an assessment. That's it. Any questions? Yes.
Just have one. With everyone trying to invest in pushing DR, is this a way to like where you can badge it or do something with you to say like this is cyber safe, like to where customers feel better about moving down that tunnel?
Disaster. You're talking about disaster recovery in general.
Just because a lot of people don't want to move down DR because of the possibility of putting their information out there. Is this a way to use it? You're talking about digital retail.
Oh, digital retailing. Sorry, DR means something different in my business. We'd have to talk a little bit more detail about that, right? I mean, I don't specifically know what that means.
So
When you talk about information they don't want out there, what specific?
You're in and they're going to buy it online and put a credit app in and do this, but a lot of people are adverse to doing that.
Oh, I see.
Because of the increase of cyber.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we do a lot with encryption and things like that. We can put it in data centers that are solid, right? But at the end of the day, people don't want to do that because they've heard all the bad things, right? They've heard these massive companies get breached. Target was breached, right? The Target got breached through the HVAC system, which was connected to the internet, right? So even if you do everything you're supposed to do, somebody goes over there and unplugs one of the Ethernet cables and plugs it into their computer, which happens to be on their own network, that's a vector into the system. You have to lock everything down. When we do pen tests are called penetration tests, right? There is a physical penetration test that you can do. And what they do is they leave USB, the little connectors, and they'll write on top of it GM salary, in your case, right? Or management salary. And they throw it in their computer and all of a sudden it redirects. That's a vector, right? So there's a lot of different ways to get in. There's a lot of different ways to do that. There's a lot of different ways to lock it down so that doesn't happen. We're specialists in that. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
You've got all these multi-billion-dollar DMS and CRM companies, right? What are your thoughts about all this new CDPs, which are not multi-billion-dollar companies? We take everything in DMS, everything in CDP, and now you put it in yet another database that can be exposed.
For me, and repeat questions.
He's talking about CDPs, which is taking the information from the DMS, the CRMs, and aggregating it someplace, right? So that's a tough one, right? We're working with some of these vendors to figure out exactly what they're doing and how they're doing it. The data still, and the way that the data goes from your location into wherever they're storing it is still at risk, right? So think about this from the healthcare side. It's like on the healthcare side, they have all this information that ends up in what they call a EMR, right? Medical records, electronic medical records. They still have to make sure that the data going from where you guys are entering it into where they're going is encrypted, right? And is safe. And so I don't think it's a horrible idea what they're doing. It's not a bad idea because it's a central repository that potentially they could secure. But I would be going to NADA, right? Like you start realizing that there's a lot of vendors, and some of the same vendors you don't see year after year, right? They come by one night and then they're not there next. Any vendor that you all work with, I would ask them what their security posture looks like. At the end of the day, you want to know that any information you give them is secure. How big are they? How many people do they have on their security staff? Are they outsourcing it? If so, to whom? How big is that company? Right? I know Comply Auto does some of this, but you should still ask yourself. In some cases, I think it's a great idea. It doesn't alleviate you of having to protect your wireless access points, which is another vector, by the way. If you have guest wireless access points, which is not, you should do that, but there should be a firewall, right? It's a good way to secure data if it's done right and the company is big enough and they're not just some fly by the seat of your pant company, that they can secure the data for you at rest, right? Which is a good thing. Yeah, so it depends. I don't have a great answer for you other than it depends. Any other questions? I was hoping to keep it under 30 minutes. I don't know if I...
Well, I actually just got a quick story to share because, I think as we think of data breach and, we think this crazy complicated, I had an experience as when I owned my Mitsubishi dealership. My controller reached out to me while I was on vacation and she sent me a text message. She goes, I paid that invoice you sent me. Invoice?
Oh, yeah.
I'm on a beach. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I just got the email from you saying you forgot to pay this before you left. So someone had hacked my emails, watched and waited until I was away, and sent a very, very simple, not complicated email to my controller saying, hey, I forgot to pay this. Can you pay it real quick? And it was $8,000. Gone. Just like that.
That's a normal one.
And I was gonna say, this is actually, come to find out, it's pretty common one. So it can happen. And I'm telling you, it happens more often than you know it. Being an ex-dealer principal, I'm willing to admit this, but I will openly say that most of my dealer friends wouldn't want to maybe admit some of these stories. I actually was texting one friend of mine in the back when we were doing this. I said, do you mind if I share this story? He's like, yeah, just don't mention my name. I said, all right, that's fine. So he owns a dealership in Maryland, had an F&I manager, just incredibly overqualified, come in, like, wow, this guy's gonna be a great employee. This is gonna be awesome. He worked at the dealership for 3.5 weeks. One day they come in and every computer in every finance office was gone. And they didn't quite actually know what happened immediately. Well, it wasn't just the computers, it was also a lot of credit apps. So this person actually became employed at this dealership for 3 weeks just so he could figure out where and how to access these credit apps. Now, over 350 people's credit data got affected. I'm going to tell you right now, from one dealer principal to another, that is not a fun conversation. And I legitimately had, this person, well, I didn't have to, sorry. This friend of mine had to legitimately have a conversation with over 350 people.
Not fun.
Not a fun thing to happen. Anyways, we don't say this to make you guys afraid, but this is just reality.
I'm trying to scare everybody.
Okay, fine. He's trying to scare everyone. Hey, for everybody out there watching the live feed, we appreciate you guys. We are now home. We will be breaking here soon and heading down to the suite. Sorry for everybody.